Hi there, it's Micha. I'm sitting here again with my sister, and we haven't talked about Loki last week. So we will talk about episode 3 and episode 4 today. Though I guess for episode 3, after we've seen episode 4, there might not be that much to actually talk about, but okay.
Hi there.
Exactly. As usual, first question, how did you like the last 2 episodes and how would you rate them?
Oh, both of them together, okay. The third one was a 7.5 for me, but I didn't feel very well on that day because I've got my first of 2 vaccinations for COVID, and so it's possible that it was an influence. It was also good, but it was definitely different than the 2 episodes before. And yeah.
And the fourth one? So the third one was Lamentis, which played out on this abandoned moon, which was about to be crushed by the planet.
Yeah.
And the fourth one was called the Nexus event, where basically all hell broke loose.
Yeah, this one I really, really liked. To keep a little bit space, if something really great is happening in the near future, I would give it a 9 out of 10. And it was really, really fun, and we learned a lot. Yeah.
You're kind of stingy, right? Just to keep a little bit of space in case the next one is even better.
Who knows?
But okay, everyone is approaching it differently. I mean, I gave the third one an 8.5, like the 2 before.
Okay.
And this one got a 9.5 because it was almost perfect. Just, as I said in the review video, I just didn't like that Mobius was just jumping from being completely on the side of a timekeepers to being, hey, let's dismantle that whole thing. So that was too quick for me. He should just have done some investigation or what else.
Yeah, but I've got the feeling from the episodes before that he always was a little bit suspicious about the timekeepers. And he had so many questions when he spoke with the judge. So I've always had the feeling.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine, but still jumping from, hey, everything is fine, to let's burn it to the ground.
Okay.
That is a little bit of a steep curve for me. I would have understood him and his character more if he would have said, hey, let's investigate a little bit more and let's free Loki already to try something there. But that he was determined on really shutting the whole thing down, without any hesitation, was a little bit weird to me. Because just because Ravonna is keeping secrets, just because she seems to be
but they killed off C20. And you saw the proof of it.
But he doesn't even know what would happen if they burn it all down. Maybe everyone inside the bureau would die by that or whatever. I don't know what's the consequence. That's what I mean, basically. That I would have loved that he at least looks into the consequences a little bit more before he goes full berserker.
But B15 was also on her side. But she had shown some of her memories.
Exactly.
And it's different. I understand that, but for me, that doesn't feel strange. His reaction felt real.
But at the end of the day, I mean, I still gave it 9.5, even with that caveat, and you didn't. So
yes, okay.
Okay, let's maybe start with a quick rundown of previous theories and see if we have any updates on them. And I think we can pretty quickly check them off because especially episode 4 was changing everything.
Yeah.
So previously we had the big question, is this Loki someone who can be trusted? And for me, especially the scene where he was crying when Mobius was pruned was the proof that he emotionally is at the same point or very close to the point that the Loki we know from Endgame was at that point.
Yeah.
So I would say, yes, we can trust him to be more of a good guy than the villain. And that is not even the question anymore. The question now is, can the Time Bureau be trusted?
Yeah.
So it completely changed there.
Yeah.
We don't need to talk about the Time Twister technology anymore. If the evil variant is Lady Loki is also far behind us already. TVA employees is something we will touch on later. Approved events versus Nexus events, now that we know that the Timekeepers are a scam anyway, I think is also not that important. The significance of the dates where the evil variant, if we can still call her the evil variant, attacks is also far from interesting to us at this point. And that's everything that we talked about in episode 1. In the second video we did, we talked about if the evil variant is Enchantress. That doesn't seem to be the case. In my review video for episode 3, I also already checked off the point that the person sitting with Loki, the blonde, is Sylvia, not Black Widow, as we speculated in the second video. Loki's real form also is not that interesting at this point, but might be because we saw a crocodile Loki variant. So
alligator Loki.
So let's see what that's about. The time charges being sent back in time were also resolved in a flash just off screen. Female Loki's plan, I guess we have seen pretty much in the last 2 episodes. There's also nothing to discuss. The religion of a timekeeper, now that we know the timekeepers are not even real and everyone inside the Time Bureau seemed to be brainwashed, we can skip over that. Sacred timeline versus free will, we discussed that. Nothing more here. Same for Thanos' snap, and if the TVA intervened during WandaVision, doesn't matter at this point, exactly.
Yeah.
Hunter B-15's motivation to be alone with Loki, why she was taking him along on her own. I mean, it's still a stupid thing to do, but I guess we will not see any explanation now. She is helping Sylvie.
Yeah.
And the same goes for the third standard Loki ability, but maybe that comes around again when we see more about the 4 Lokis that were...
Kid Loki and old Loki.
that were sitting around with our Loki after he woke up in this post-apocalyptic scenario.
Yeah.
Okay, so much about those updates. Let's look at emerging theories that came from the last 2 episodes. I mean, in regards of episode 3, there weren't so many questions anyway that we could discuss, and especially after we've seen the 4th one.
Yeah.
For me, the 2 main questions with episode 3 were just, now that we have learned more about Sylvie being the female variant of Loki and her plans, and learned that she had a likely very bad backstory, we were just asking ourselves, is she really the bad guy? Or at that point, I guess most of us already thought she is the good guy, which was clarified within a few seconds in the 4th episode anyway.
Yeah.
And the second question everyone had, of course, was how will they survive that pretty much certain death scenario that we were left with in episode 3? And what they did was pretty clever, that they created something that they did, which was such a big event that it even showed up in an apocalypse. That it even showed up as a spike in a moment where, as we learned in the previous episodes, nothing should even matter. But it was so important, apparently, that it even mattered at that point in time.
I think that this situation that the Lokis didn't felt alone anymore was a sign for me that Loki is very important for the sacred timeline. So if he could create in an apocalypse such a Nexus event just by not feeling alone anymore.
I mean, Loki seems to be very important, as Mobius seemed to be a designated agent just to deal with Lokis. So it's not the first Loki, that's at least the impression we got.
Yeah.
And
I also saw on a file in one episode that our Loki variant has, I think it was the ID L1140. So my theory was that there must be at least so many Lokis. So the L stands for Loki. So
it might be. Maybe it's just all people with an L, but maybe
maybe
it's just the Lokis. But it would also explain, from my standpoint, why Mobius was considering Loki to be a friend. So maybe he had similar interactions with other Loki variants before.
Possible.
And felt connected to him that way. But maybe it's just this variant.
Okay.
We cannot know. But to your point, and that is something I mentioned in the previous review video, that I really think this Loki and Sylvie connection is so important that it even shows up as a big spike within an apocalypse, because he is about to change his course again. Not only to be a good guy, as he was at the end of his previous life, as the Loki we know from Endgame, but also, like you said, because he also started to not be alone anymore. And I've read somewhere that Loki in the comics is supposed to be a catalyst. That he is the one who is the reason why Nick Fury created and brought together the Avengers. And along the history in the comics, that seems to be a recurring theme. That he tries to do something bad and something good comes out of it. That seems to be something that is dependent on the fact that he is unhappy and that he feels alone. Once he is not feeling alone anymore, that is creating chaos on the sacred timeline because he is needed to be the bad guy. Or at least to create chaos because he is alone. Maybe even if he starts to be the good guy, it's tolerable as long as he is doing crazy and weird stuff that is needed. But I'm pretty sure we will see the explanation for that at the end of the show, that they will comment on that. They need to explain why there was such a big spike.
Yeah.
And I cannot imagine that this is just because he is falling in love with Sylvie or something. Maybe that's happening because he is really feeling connected to her, and I think he was trying to say... I think he was trying to say something like that right before he was pruned.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, maybe that would be such a crazy situation, such pure chaos, as Mobius called it, that if you fall in love and start a relationship with literally yourself, that would be something that created such a spike. But I really think, like you said, that it is more the connection that they have. Yeah. Whatever that may be at the end of the day.
Yeah. Okay, but I have one question regarding episode 3. Who's the postman? Tell me, who is the postman that Sylvie mentioned? Was it just a joke, or is there really someone?
That's a funny thing, actually, because I spoke with a friend of mine about that. Hi, Paul. And he was also mentioning that, and I guess that is something that can be interpreted in different ways. For me, it was pretty clear that she was just making a joke there, that she says, yeah, of course I have time to have a postman as a friend, But it might be that she was not joking. Yeah, it seems to be something that people can completely understand in a different way depending on how they look at it.
Yeah.
For me, it would be that way.
Maybe
that guy shows up sometime.
Okay.
I don't know. But I at least thought that was just a joke, at least at the end of what she told him. At the beginning, I was also thinking, maybe that's true. But then as she ended her sentence, it seems like more of a sarcastic joke. Yeah, of course, I have time for that. Between all of the stuff I'm doing, I have time for a boyfriend. Sure.
Yeah, but why then ask the question to our Loki?
I think it was just something to establish that they are both alone usually.
Okay.
So to connect and to establish that this is... Maybe that is actually the third trait that Mobius was talking about and that he never spoke out loud. So maybe
that they're always alone, or what do you mean?
Not sure if that is an ability, but maybe just a trait that he is always alone and that he is never really connecting with people, usually.
Okay.
So... I guess that's everything that we have for episode 3. Let's continue with episode 4. And I guess the main question is that as we see Loki waking up in a different scenario in a post-apocalyptic world, apparently, that means that he survived. So can we expect that Mobius also survived? We already touched on the point that Mobius was pruned, and that was a big shocker. And then Loki himself got pruned. Yeah, so what's your take? Do you think he will be in that world?
I hope everyone who was pruned can, regenerate somehow. I hope they are able to bring them back. It was a harsh scene.
In the review video, I already had a little bit of a theory there, but in the meantime, I thought a little bit more about that, and now I think I have a theory that might actually make sense.
Okay.
What I thought was several things. First of all, my big question was, why were they keeping the Lokies, so Loki and Sylvie, alive? Why didn't they just prune them right away? Why did they bring them before the timekeepers? And the timekeepers, I noticed, used not the word pruning, but deleting.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, is there a difference between deleting and pruning? Because pruning, I hope, seems to be just sending someone to another place.
Yeah.
With those pruning sticks. And it would make sense to me that they send every variant that they deem guilty to a place where they can still retrieve them, because, as we learned, they are using variants as employees.
Yeah.
So it would not make sense to just kill those off and just get rid of those resources. And still they want to keep the appearance of them dying, because it should be a deterrent. So I guess it would make sense that this pruning just means sending them to a certain space. And that space, I'm pretty sure, is after an apocalypse and not before, where Loki and Sylvie were hiding. So a place where nobody should be alive, because the whole planet basically died. and nobody would even try to look there. Maybe they removed that from their sensors, from their maps, and they just park everyone there and then just grab whoever they need and remove their memories if they need them as employees.
But will there be variants of anyone? Or was this a place where only the Loki variants were sent to?
That's a good question, because right now we only see Lokies. Even though for a second I thought maybe that black variant with the version of Mjolnir might be a Thor variant, but it seems to be all Loki variants. So maybe that is true, that they sent every variant of bigger characters to some place. That would jeopardize our theory, or my theory, that maybe Mobius was still living, but maybe they sent him to a different place. Okay. So maybe Pruning is still just teleporting someone to a specific place.
Maybe to a recruiting space or a reprogramming location, maybe. So they can start again and let them work at the TVA. Who knows?
I mean, maybe they do it straight away like that, so that they don't even park them anywhere, that they just beam them to a space where they will be reprogrammed straight away.
Okay.
Or after a certain amount of time. Like you said, that might make sense. Maybe they have just a place for all the Lokies, because Loki is so important. Who knows? Who knows? And so that is pruning, and deleting then would mean really to kill them off in a different way, likely, if that is the reason behind that. So maybe that was the reason they brought them there, because they wanted to really kill them.
Or it's because they are androids and they are mechanic, and they use the word delete or something.
It also might be that there's no difference, but then I would still ask myself, why, if they aren't even real, why bring them in front of them?
Okay.
So still I ask myself, is there a difference in the wording of deleting and pruning, or is it just semantics? I don't know. But then again, I would say it would be stupid to keep them alive if they are so important to be killed. The next question I have on my notepad is around Ravonna Renslayer and her involvement. In the first scene in the episode, it seems like she was actually talking with the timekeepers, so it appeared like she was interacting with them.
I even think she was nervous in the elevator.
Yeah, it seems so. So either she knows that they are fake, but is communicating through them, knowing the person behind them and fearing that person, or she wasn't aware of the fact that they are robots. But then her reaction would have been quite underwhelming when she sees that the gods that she is serving are not real. So what's your take here?
Yeah, I think she knows more. So the question of Sylvie is definitely justified. And I think so too, that if it was news for her, she would be shocked to see the head fall off and be an android's head instead of a god. And
I mean, I touched on one theory in the last video, which I followed up a little bit researching online, that Ravonna might be working with Kang the Conqueror, who is
in the comics, no?
Exactly, who is a time-traveling entity. What I didn't know before, and that is something that came up pretty quickly when you read up about Ravonna, is that she in the comics is also working with Kang. So that wouldn't be something completely new, and I didn't even read up prior to the series about her, because I saw her working there. I thought maybe she's in the comics. I didn't even thought that it would be remotely a possibility that she would be a bad guy.
Okay.
Just reading that she is working with someone like Kang seems to be indicating that in the comics she's also evil.
Yeah. But I mentioned before that she's called Terminatrix,
So that is also something evil then, I guess. Yeah. I should have asked myself when you said Terminatrix, does that sound evil? I thought maybe it's a good Terminatrix, so that was then quite stupid on my part. But so in the comics she seems to be entangled romantically with Kang, and not only working with him, but also having a relationship with him. That might be the thing behind it, and so maybe Kang turns out to be an upcoming big bad in the MCU Phase 4, maybe even relevant for the next Doctor Strange movie or something.
Yeah, maybe.
We will see. Maybe he turns out to be some big bad like Thanos was before. And if he has that much power to create the TVA, then of course he might be even more powerful than Thanos.
Okay.
Because someone needed to have created the TVA. And if those timekeepers were just fake, and pretty much everything around their backstory is fake, we cannot even rely on the fact that the time wars that Miss Minute talked about are real. So maybe that is also just a figment of someone's imagination when he came up with the whole system.
Yeah, but about the employees of the TVA, why are all of them humans? We never see some kind of alien race or something like that.
We only see them in the background, like the Krill in...
But only in the first episode, or?
I think in the first episode we saw one, but he was only in the background, and I think he might have been a variant himself. So I guess we haven't seen an employee, like you say, who is...
but the timekeepers are definitely alien. So I think it's weird that we only see humans or Asgardians or whatever. And is the big bad from our Earth, or why are they all human-like?
It's a good question. I mean, I would almost have said that maybe this bad guy is only capable of working with humans and maybe is restricted in his powers to just handle things from Earth. But we also saw that the TVA can jump to other planets like Lamentis and Asgard, but also Lamentis, which is completely in another place.
Yeah.
So it doesn't seem to be that, but you might be on a right track that maybe he is just using humans for some reasons. Maybe it's easier for him to just erase the memory of humans and use them. Maybe other creatures from other planets might be more difficult.
And just a thing that's going through my head now, the erasing of the memories, it's just like an enchantment tool, or not?
I mean, the memory seems to be still there.
Yeah.
That's what you mean, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Because Sylvie can access them. So if they are just suppressed memories, if they have just hidden the memories and not erased them.
It would be funny if at the end the big old bad would be some Loki variant or enchantress or whatever.
Maybe it's the Loki who has taken over the time bureau already.
Yeah, who knows?
I mean, imagine that. He comes in with the idea, hey, let's take over the bureau.
Yeah.
And then he already did that and replaced the timekeepers with robots and everything.
Or maybe he created it. It's possible that some form of variant of Loki started it all.
That would be funny. Maybe even the variant that sent Sylvie back in time or something or whatever. So maybe that's still a theory out there that Sylvie, like in the comics, is not really a variant of Loki, but is someone who was sent back in time to a specific time to create chaos by some Loki variant.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see because I think that there might still be the possibility that our Loki variant is falling for her. If that happens, they need to create a scenario where he is not falling in love with himself.
Yeah, but for a narcissist, it would be perfect to fall in love
the
with
question
himself.
is just a question then of genetics, I guess.
They couldn't
she is the same genetics.
Yeah, offspring would be out of the question, okay, but yeah, it would fit. What I also wanted to say was that first, when we saw that Sylvie was taken as a child, as a little kid, I really don't think that there, in that moment, was a Nexus event created. I don't think so. And it seemed cruel. And I first thought, was she taken because she was a girl? But after that, we saw the kid Loki and the old Loki and the alligator Loki. And so that was out of the question for me. But at that moment, I really thought it was the problem that she's female.
Maybe Ravonna was just being mean at that point because she's smirking like hell. She knows the reason. Maybe she is the reason. Maybe there's no reason. Maybe she was just creating chaos by taking someone who is innocent.
Yeah, and that's possible.
Wants to see what's happening when she takes her and then lets her being corrupted by that whole lifetime that she has.
Because the scene in which the little one was playing with the chip and all, it was so sweet and innocent. So, yeah.
It's either that or the reason was so small that it was ridiculous and that it doesn't even make sense. Maybe that was the smallest Nexus event ever, that she was just playing something. And
was happy in this moment, or what do you mean?
Or maybe she was playing something and predicting some event because it looked almost like Ragnarok with a big wolf and stuff like that. So maybe that was it. But it seems to be for sure cruel, and I had the same feeling that it seems like she was just taken because she is a female, and then the timing is just cruel. Then they should have done it earlier.
Yeah, definitely.
Or at a point in time where it makes sense, but just like it looked there, it looked like completely random.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, my last point on the agenda would be the 4 Lokis, of course, and that breaks down into some questions. The big one I have is, what do you think about the black variant with a hammer? I was referring it in the review video as a variant who is worthy of carrying Mjolnir, which could be. But also, as you can see, the hammer looks completely different. But also his costume and his whole style looks a little bit different. So it could be like some kind of a steampunk version of the hammer or whatever. Mm-hmm. So do you think that is Mjolnir, or is it just something that this variant has created himself because he just wanted to have a hammer like Thor has?
Both of it is possible, I think. I really don't know. We will see. I hope. Maybe.
I mean, for me, it would be the more interesting point if it really is Mjolnir. And if that is a Loki that is so worthy of having the hammer that actually that would create a Nexus event. And they said, hey, let's take him away. But again, now at this point in time, we don't even know if Nexus events are really something that would disturb that sacred timeline, or if this whole thing is just bullshit. And they just jump in and take people whenever they want to remove them. Right now we need to question everything that the Time Bureau is doing.
I just thought about the scene of Loki in the loop with Lady Sif and thought it really felt a little bit like some sort of hell version. His own little hell. The moment was repeated and Lady Sif always told him, you are alone, you will always be alone. And that will never change and blah blah blah. And yeah, the TVA feels a little bit like
purgatory?
Yeah.
So are you suggesting that the guy in the background is Mephisto? Which was also suggested to be the bad guy behind the whole thing with WandaVision?
I don't know. It kind of feels like they are in purgatory and are judged if they are good or bad and what happens next. But it's just a theory that just popped up in my head. So
it definitely has some kind of a purgatory feeling to it. I guess maybe that's the inspiration of the whole thing anyway. That you say, okay, let's take people and judge them while the whole world is continuing in the predestined course.
Yeah.
But they are taken away and they are treated as if they would be dead.
Yeah.
I mean, for all intents and purposes, they are dead at that point in time.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the other way around. Maybe the Time Bureau is there since the human race and every life existed, and maybe someone with knowledge of it was creating the image of purgatory based on them, and not the other way around.
Okay. I understand.
Both might be possible.
Yeah.
So our hammer-wearing variant, I still hope he is a variant that is worthy of wearing Mjolnir. But again,
it would be nice.
It might be that nothing really matters and that there's a whole different agenda behind the TVA, which has nothing really to do with Nexus events as they explain them to us.
Yeah.
Okay, last of 2 points regarding... My voice is vanishing today. Last of 2 points regarding the 4 Lokis is Kid Loki. Which in the review video before I just referred to him as a kid version, but looking up the internet, it seems to be that there is someone called Kid Loki, which will become a member of the Young Avengers in the comics. And it's basically the first variant of Loki that decided to be good, because he was pushed so hard to be the bad guy by forces around him that at a very young age he decided to be a good guy and changed course already. That would explain why they took him out already and put him somewhere else. If what we thought about before, that maybe Loki is not allowed to be happy, not allowed to not feel alone, not allowed to be the good guy, maybe that's why they removed him from the sacred timeline.
But the one with the hammer would be a good version.
Exactly.
The Kid Loki would be a good version. Our Loki now would be beginning to be a good version, or is also already a good version. Old Loki, I don't know. But the female version of Loki was definitely good. It could be possible that all good versions are sent to this place and taken out of the timeline.
We will see. I mean, the old version is called Classic Loki in the credits, or Old Loki in the comics. He is clothed the same way that Loki is in the comics, so that's why they call him Classic Loki. So he is the Loki that comic readers knew from the get-go.
So he's an evil version? Or...
So he would likely be an evil version, but maybe there are different versions of that old guy as well, and maybe that version we see is the good guy.
Okay.
I mean, there's also the theory that, as I mentioned before, Sylvie in the comics is being sent back in time by another version of Loki, which is an old version of Loki. So maybe that is that old version of Loki that created her.
Okay.
We will find out later. At that point, everything is possible. But of course, the last thing to talk about is the alligator or crocodile Loki.
Yeah, alligator. Definitely alligator.
I would say crocodile Loki, but let's find out what it is. I have not checked out the snout that precisely if it is.
It was a small one. Crocodiles are much bigger. And alligators are tinier and...
It could still be growing, but okay, we will see.
Maybe.
But also there, the internet is going crazy because there's a version of Thor called Frog Thor or Throg.
Yeah.
And he is being transformed into a frog by Loki. And there seems to be a lot of funny storylines around him. And as far as I can say, that seems to be just a fun, not very seriously regarded storyline with Thor. But many people think that he will show up and that this crocodile or alligator version is just a nod or precursor for the possibility that we see animal versions of our favorite characters.
Okay.
In any case, I think it's funny to see a crocodile that is a variant. I mean, at the end of the day, it can also be that this is really just a pet and Kid Loki puts some antennas on him or some horns on him. But I felt like this should be a variant as well.
Yeah, the alligator Loki would then be the first not human variant we would see. So I think it's maybe a pet of Kid Loki.
But we said that we only didn't see alien or not human
as
people as employees.
Okay.
But as variants, I mean, we saw a krill in the background. So there are aliens for sure. And they were on a different planet. So maybe they take people from there as well. I don't know. Yeah. I think it was intended to be a variant, but we will see.
Okay.
I'm really, really interested in seeing what's happening in the next 2 episodes because I could have never predicted what happened in episode 4. That was a complete wild ride. Still hoping to see Mobius as well in the next episode. Yeah. I hope they don't just do a stupid, silly gag that maybe you just see the original Mobius that is still alive on a jet ski or something. And Loki is just acknowledging him by nodding to him. I really would like to see his character as the time agent being back and not being erased.
Yeah, definitely.
And I'm pretty sure, like mentioned before, that they cannot afford to just erase people, to just delete them completely or to kill them off because they need the resource as employees. It's just a question if they would reuse someone who was already working there.
I just thought of what Agent C20 or B15, what kind of Nexus event they created.
I guess that will be...
Never explained.
That will remain a mystery because it's not that relevant. It might be interesting, but...
And if their names started with C and B, I really would want to know, but... Okay, that's also something that I will never know.
You mean like Loki is L and then 4 different numbers behind? So maybe they are quite old in the agency, that they are still 15 and 20. And then you have like Hunter 15,579, if it's a new Hunter or something like that.
Yeah, but...
That they use that designation from the files as the names?
Yeah, that the real name started with C and B.
Might be.
Yeah.
Might be. So what I would think, based on what you said, is that maybe the signature would be taken from their file, like with a Loki file.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah.
Our Loki would then be L1000, you know what.
Yeah. But still, the interesting question would be, Mobius already was a variant.
Yeah.
His memory was erased.
Yeah.
And he is now working in the Time Bureau. Now that he is pruned.
For all the others, he's dead.
Would they use someone twice? Or is every variant just usable once, and once they are pruned, they cannot be reused in the Time Bureau because someone might recognize them from before?
It's a good question. I would think it would be too much trouble to erase everyone's memory of that person. So for me, it would be easier that this type of variant or this human or whatever couldn't come back to the TVA.
Couldn't be recycled. But he was still pruned, so if pruning is sending them to a specific place and time, he could still be alive, but the question is what happens there. It comes down to the question if they have a place where they just store them, or if they have a place where they directly send them to be reprogrammed.
Yeah, that's, I think, the problem about the pruning. So everyone in the TVA thinks if someone is pruned, they are deceased. So it's definitely not possible to see someone twice.
Exactly. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
So that would basically remove the possibility that they are being sent directly to a reprogramming center.
Yeah,
they are likely being sent to a place where they need to be sorted, and then they need to revisit it and check out who goes where.
So the idea from before that I had is,
But it would mean that maybe they are being sent from Purgatory, aka the Time Bureau, to a second Purgatory where they're being sorted, who comes back as a variant and works as an employee, and who is either killed off or need to remain there wherever that place is. And then the question, of course, is it the same place where the Lokies are, or is there
or for everyone in a
special Loki heaven? Anything else on your notebook?
No, I think that's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then I say thanks again.
Yeah, my pleasure.
And as always, let us know what you think about our theories, and let us know what theories you have and what else we might have missed that is going around in the internet. Let us know in the comments. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please like it and feel free to share it with your friends. And why not subscribe to my channel so you won't miss any future video. Make sure to also hit the notification bell so that you get a heads up whenever a new video is posted. So much for now. See you next time, and thanks for listening.
Yeah, bye!